الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Last time we did the istiftah or the thana, which is the opening dua. We did the ta'awudh, which is to say a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. We did the basmala, which is to say bismillahir rahmanir rahim. And we did the fatiha. And we also did some things around praying quietly and how that is done, and the aspects around the fatiha. This week we will continue with that, and we will try and finish the ruku' and the standing from ruku' if we get time to do that. So the first thing we'll start with is that recitation aloud by the imam is considered sunnah in the Maliki and Shafi'i madhab, and is considered a wajib in the Hanafi madhab. Okay? The recitation loud in the loud components, so in the Fajr and the first 2 rak'at of the Maghrib and the Isha prayer, as you know, that is considered wajib in the Hanafi madhab. And to pray silently in the silent prayers and the silent rak'at is also wajib in the Hanafi madhab, and sunnah in the other madhahib. What is the ruling if you miss out a wajib in the Hanafi madhab? Sajdat as-sahw. And it should not be done intentionally. A munfarid, what is a munfarid? Sorry? The one who is praying alone is called a munfarid. Okay? So we have the imam, his prayer style. We have the munfarid, his prayer style. We have the muqtadi, who is the follower, his prayer style. And then we have the masbuq, which is the latecomer. And each of them have their own individual rulings. Okay? So with regards to praying aloud, the munfarid has the choice of praying silently for the loud prayers in the Hanafi and the Hanbali madhahib. Imam Malik and Imam Shafi say that even for the munfarid, it is sunnah to be praying loudly. Okay? So let's say you miss the Maghrib Jama'ah and you're praying Maghrib by yourself, then because Maghrib has the first 2 rak'at being loud, and if you are Shafi, then you will pray that loud. But that loudness should be according to the situation. So, you know, if you are praying alone and other people are having a halaqah or something like that, you don't have to make it so loud that the whole masjid hears you, right? So the loudness, the degree of loudness that will cover loudness is that if people who are next to you can hear you. And if someone is the imam, then most of the first row can hear you. In a big masjid like this, it's going to be difficult without a loudspeaker, but even still, most people should be able to hear the imam if he is reciting loudly. That's all the things I wanted to say around loudly, and we finished the Fatiha last time. So let's go on to what happens after the Fatiha. One more thing I wanted to say about the Fatiha. I felt I had overemphasized reading the Fatiha with the tajweed last time. And so the thing to say is that common mistakes are overlooked. So for example, someone does not know how to say the Sad correctly, and he reads it as seen, it is overlooked. It will not become that his Fatiha is invalidated as a result of those kinds of tajweed mistakes. The person should make an effort to learn the Fatiha according to the tajweed to the best of his ability. After the Fatiha, both the Imam and the Ma'moom will say Ameen. Okay? It is not going to be just the Ma'moom. The Ma'moom is the Muqtadi, right? The follower. The Imam and the follower will say Ameen. And this is considered a Sunnah. And Imam Malik says that this is Mandub. Mandub meaning recommended. which is a category lower than sunnah. Regardless, everyone considers it as a sunnah. As you all know, Imam Shafi and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal will say that the Imam and the Ma'mum will say it loudly. And in the Maliki and Hanafi madhab, it will be done quietly. If the Imam does the Ameen quietly, then the Shafi'i Muqtadi will do the Ameen loudly. Even though the Imam did it quietly, he will say it loudly. So his Ameen being loud is disconnected with the Imam. The walad dhalin should not be connected to the Ameen, meaning you should not say walad dhalin Ameen without taking a breath. There is a breath taken after walad dhalin. The Ameen should not have a shadda on the meme because it changes the meaning. So you should not say Ameen. Okay? It's Ameen. All right. In the Shafi'i madhab, because reciting the Fatiha is compulsory for the Muqtadi, he will say Ameen with the Imam, and when he reads his own Fatiha, he will do another Ameen with his own Fatiha. Okay? Sorry? No. Ameen is Sunnah. It's not part of Fatiha. Fatiha is the Rukun, right? And the Ameen is a Sunnah. So even when the person is saying it with himself, when he reads the Fatiha, he finishes it, to come to the Sunnah, he says Ameen.
But in the Shafi'i, if you miss the Sunnah, we need to make the sajda sah.
No. There are specific sunan when they are missed in the Shafi'i madhab. I said them to you in the first class. I think you missed that class. You need to go back and listen to it. The main sunnahs in the Shafi'i madhab that require a sajda sahwi is the first jalsa and the tashahhud of the first jalsa and the salah on the Nabi in the first jalsa. Salat al-Ibrahimiyya in the second, the last jalsa, and the qunut in Fajr. Those three things. Okay? So other sunan, if they are missed, do not require a sajda sahwi. Now, obviously, the Shafi'i Imam makes a pause after the Fatiha. So he reads the Fatiha and then he does a pause. Why does he do this? To allow the people behind him to read the Fatiha. In the Hanafi madhab, and I digged quite deep into this to find out what is the answer to this, I was taught long ago that if a person does a pause in the prayer, that is equivalent to 3 tasbihat. So if you can say, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, Subhana Rabbiyal A'la, this amount of time, if a person paused in his prayer, that would invalidate the prayer. That's what I was taught. But when I looked into the matter, it is that it is makruh tahrimi. Okay? Explicitly makruh. So a Hanafi Imam will not pause after the Fatiha, because if he did that, that is makruh. The Shafi and Hanbalis, they pause. I don't know the answer for the Malikis. I don't know what they do in your country, whether they pause or they don't pause.
I'm not sure, but he didn't pause.
They don't pause, yeah. But what is the actual Maliki status? I didn't get time to, I had to dig around a lot to find the Hanafi position on this. So I'll come back to you about the Maliki position on this. By pausing, so I have finished the Fatiha as the Imam or the Munfarid, not the Muqtadi. I am the Imam or I'm praying my own prayer. And I finished the Fatiha, I've said Ameen, and now I'm standing still, not saying anything. That's a pause. Maybe I'm thinking about what surah to read, okay? Or maybe I'm the Imam and I'm giving people a chance to read the Fatiha. That is allowed in the Shafi'i madhab and there's no problem. In fact, it is recommended in their madhab to give the people time to read the Fatiha. The length of time that you give people to read the Fatiha is according to the custom. But in the Hanafis, they don't allow you to do a pause, okay? So you can see that when I lead the prayer, as soon as I finish, as soon as everyone finishes their Ameen, I go straight into the recitation. And so it is advisable that the person decides what they're going to recite in terms of the surah beforehand. right? So some people will finish the Fatiha and then they're trying to decide, do I read وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, or maybe I read وَاللَّيْلِ, maybe no. Let me wait. Let's do أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ. Oh, wait, no, I don't like that. Let's do it in a, okay. And then he's deciding for 10 minutes what he's going to read, right? This is a long pause, and it's makruh tahrimi in the Hanafi madhab. Are you going to ask us something?
Yeah, I'll pray down some brothers from the Hanafi madhab. They pause long enough to recite Fatiha.
Okay, but it is perhaps so. As many things, some people do them. However, in the madhab, it is makruh tahrimi. And so many things, look, some people do things without knowledge, right? And so you have to go to someone who has read the fiqh and understood it. And also, you know, what has the person actually read? So, for example, in the Hanafi madhab, someone has read Nur al-Idah. Well, Nur al-Idah is, you know, a beginner level book, right? So then you say, okay, I've read Kanz al-Daqaiq, okay, intermediate level book. You know, what have you read beyond that? So to get to the matter of it, sometimes you have to go to the advanced level books to get to the answer of it. We'll move on. We can do questions at the end, inshallah. So then he starts to recite the surah. Just like in the Fatiha, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal says that the Basmala is a sunnah for the surah. In comparison to the Fatiha, Imam Shafi says that the Basmala is a sunnah. In Fatiha, he said it is a part of Fatiha, so it is a rukun, right? But for the surah, he said it is a sunnah, so he will read it, even if he is starting from the middle of a surah. He does not come with a ta'awudh. No one says that he says, A'udhu billahi min shaitanir rajim. Because he did that at the beginning of the prayer, after the istiftah, he doesn't come up with it again for the surah. Imam Malik, just like with the Fatiha, Imam Malik says no basmala with the Fatiha, therefore no basmala with the surah either, because he does not have Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in his recitation. Imam Abu Hanifa says that it is not sunnah to do the basmala, but the person can do it. There's no harm in doing it. So if the person has a habit of doing the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim with the Fatiha, then he does the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim with the surah as well, and that is fine. The recitation of the surah itself is a wajib in the Hanafi madhab and a sunnah for the other three madhahib. Now, when I mean a surah, I mean that he recites a surah or something like a surah. So then they differ of how much will be considered minimum to complete the sunnah or the wajib. Okay. And so what they say is that one verse is sufficient. All right? With some more detail. So the Hanafis say that one verse must be equivalent to 3 short verses. So the other week I led Jummah and I prayed Ayatul Kursi. And the person came up to me afterwards and said, you didn't do the wajib. You have to read more than 1 ayah. You have to read at least 3 ayat or 2 ayah or something. I said, no, this Ayatul Kursi is definitely as long as 3 small ayat, so it is valid. So you can either read 3 small ayat or 1 long ayah. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal says that if someone, for example, read 1 ayah like mudhammatan, is 1 word, is 1 ayah, he said that it doesn't stand by itself. It doesn't make sense by itself. So the person should come with something before it or after it for it to make sense. All right? For example, someone said, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Is that sufficient? Does it stand by itself? Yes, it stands by itself. Linguistically, it stands by itself. So it's, if someone was desiring to do the absolute minimum, he read the Fatiha and he said, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, then he has come with the wajib for the Hanafis and the sunnah for the others, and he can go into ruku'ah. I'm not suggesting that you should do this. What I'm trying to teach you is what is the minimum. Now, understand one thing. There is the soul of the prayer, which is to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And fiqh teaches you what is the minimum required and what is the optimal required. Okay? It's like a person comes to the judge and the judge is dealing with a domestic violence case. And then the husband asks, so how should I behave with my wife? Is it the judge's role to decide that? No. What is his role? Was there violence or not? Right? He's not going to go and teach you should be nice with your wife and give her presents and bring roses. That's not his role. So the purpose of the fiqh class is to teach you what? What is the minimum? What is the ruling? What is the optimal? Do you understand this? So am I suggesting you should pray Qul Huwallahu Ahad only and then go to ruku'? That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I'm suggesting is that this meets the minimum requirements. Okay? Let's try and keep questions to the end, and so I can get through the things, and then we can come back to questions, inshallah. As I've said in the first class of Salah, Imam Abu Hanifa says that it is wajib to bring a surah in all the raka'at of the witr and all the raka'at of the voluntary prayers. The other three say that you bring the surah as a sunnah for all the voluntary raka'at as well. So if someone was praying the 4 sunnah of dhuhr and he prayed them with 1 taslima, he will do a surah after the Fatiha in all the 4 raka'at, not just the first 2. It's a mas'ala that many people don't know. Okay, so you need to read the Fatiha and the surah. Yes. The Quran must be recited in order. So if, for example, I read Qul A'udhu bi Rabbil Falaq in the first rak'ah, I should not go backwards now. I should read in the second rak'ah Qul A'udhu bi Rabbin Nas. Okay? So you should not reverse the order of the ayat. You should not reverse the order of the surahs. And that's why if you know the small surahs of the Quran, you should also learn what is the order of those surahs, so that you don't go backwards in the recitations. That is considered makruh by all the schools. Do not skip one surah and go to the next one. So in the first rak'ah, someone read قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, and in the second rak'ah, he reads تَبَّتْ يَدَا, and he has skipped إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ. That is also makruh. Okay? The person should recite more in the first rak'ah than the second rak'ah. To recite more in the second rak'ah is makruh in the fard prayer. It's not required in the nafil prayer, but in the fard prayer, the person should not recite more in the second rak'ah. Now, the Prophet ﷺ in Jum'ah, he would write al-a'la, he would recite al-a'la and al-ghashiyah. And in the Eid prayer, he would recite a'la and ghashiyah. What is longer, ghashiyah or a'la? Ghashiyah is longer, right? So they've said that because this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in Jum'ah and Eid, the Imam will do this as well. But the general ruling is that the first rak'ah should be longer than the second rak'ah in the fard prayer. Okay? That is all the ahkam of reading a surah. One more thing that should be mentioned here is if a person has missed some rak'at with the imam and then he gets up, does he recite a surah or not? Okay? This is a mas'ala to understand. So let's now take the example of that I have gone to dhuhr late and I have caught 1 rak'ah with the imam and I have to make up 3 myself. Okay? When I get up, then I will read Fatiha and a surah. Okay? In the rak'ah after, I will read a Fatiha and a surah. And in the last rak'ah, I will read only a Fatiha. This is agreed upon by everyone. Okay? Did you understand why I did it that way? Kind of? You're making up what you missed from the order of the first rak'ah of the imam. Okay? Let's now take the example that I have missed 1 rak'ah, missed 2 rak'at from Maghrib. The rak'ah I caught with the imam was only Fatiha. I have to make up 2 rak'at. Okay? Then I will pray Fatiha and a surah. What will I do with the last rak'ah? Fatiha and surah. Okay? Clear with this? You understand? Anyone confused?
When you are an imam
Yes.
and you pray dhuhr,
Yes.
do you recite in all the 4 rak'ah?
Okay, we'll come to that, inshallah. I want to try and keep questions. Let me just get through this and we'll come to questions, inshallah, at the end.
That one, is that mustahab or invalid?
Okay. I'll just answer yours and then move on, inshallah. The Fatiha is a rukun. The surah is a sunnah. If I don't do the rukun, what happens? That rak'ah is gone. That rak'ah is gone. If I don't do the sunnah, what happens? No sajda saw. I just answered your question. No sajda saw, right? If it's a main sunnah for the Shafis, then you do a sajda saw. Okay? So you have to memorize what is a rukun, what is a main sunnah for the Shafis. Hanafis, what do you have to memorize? Fard and wajib. Do you understand this? Okay. Now, I'm saying Allahu Akbar to go to ruku', and if I finish my Fatiha on the way to ruku', that invalidates the Fatiha. Okay? So the person must finish the Fatiha in the standing position, and then he goes into bowing. This will invalidate that. In fact, they say it doesn't just invalidate the Fatiha, it invalidates the prayer, except for Imam Abu Hanifa. His prayer is valid. How does he go into ruku'? The Hanafis will say Allahu Akbar and go into ruku'. Simple, straightforward. The Shafi'is and the Hanbalis will raise their hands saying Allahu Akbar. Okay? So Allah, and when the hands got to the shoulders, at this point he will now start going into ruku'. When he reaches the position of ruku', that is when the Allahu Akbar will finish. So the Allahu Akbar is being said for the entire motion. And this is said by everyone. Now, this is a sunnah or a recommended thing that the person says the takbir for the entire time that he is moving. So he doesn't just say Allahu Akbar and then he finishes, no. Or he says he goes all the way down, then he says Allahu Akbar, no. Allahu Akbar. Okay? And the fuqaha say that this is so that the entire prayer is full of some kind of dhikr. You are not silent for any period, for the imam and the munfarid. The muqtadi obviously is silent behind the imam when he is reciting Quran. Right? So that when I get to ruku', then I will go straight into the tasbih of saying Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim. So the Malikis and the Hanafis, no raising the hands. The Shafis and the Hanbalis, raising their hands. I think that is straightforward. The description of the bowing, the minimal amount of bowing, we'll get Hamza as the volunteer. Hamza, stand up. He's like, why me? What did I do in this world? Okay, just reach your knees. Just touch your knees. No, that's going way too far down. We'll get Saad to volunteer. Saad, get up. Just touch your knees. Okay, that is the minimum amount of bowing. Okay? For a person of a normal height and normal length of arms, that you would be able to touch the knees, that is considered the minimum bowing. So someone who would see him would say, yes, he is bowing. If he is not parallel, that will be considered the minimum. Now, what is the optimal way? The optimal way will be, again, Saad will volunteer again for us. Saad, do a ruku', face the qibla, and make your back straight for us. Put your feet together. Good. All right. His back is not very good. I haven't taught him well enough. And spread your fingers facing downwards. Good. And then spread your elbows. Okay, good. So all these four things. So the legs will be straight. The back will be straight. Okay. The hands will hold the knees, and the fingers will go downwards, facing downwards. You can sit down again, Saad. Okay? And the other thing to say is that the head will be level. Neither will the head be raised up like this, nor will it be drooping down. The head will be level with the back. The Sahaba said that the Prophet ﷺ's back used to be straight when he did ruku', such that if someone poured water, it would not fall down. That's how straight his back is. And most people don't take care of this thing. So tonight when you go home, you stand next to a mirror and see, how is my ruku'? Okay, check it out. Now, the elbows will be separated like this when you're doing the ruku'. And there's two things to mention here. When it's crowded, don't harm the person next to you by poking your elbows into his ribs. Okay? It's crowded, bring it down. This is something that is optimal when someone's praying alone, he has a space, he does this. Okay? You don't have space, people are squeezed together, don't poke them. The woman's prayer, according to everyone, she will have her elbows closer to the body. Now last week I said that the woman's prayer is only different in the Hanafi madhab. That's not true. There is some differences in the female prayer for all the madhahib. And they make it more compact in the ruku' and also in the sujood as well, and in the sitting. Imam al-Haskafi has mentioned 25 points of differences between the female prayer and the male prayer. So I'll spend a session on that one day, inshallah. He should do 3 tasbihat Subhana Rabbiyal Azim there. One will complete the sunnah. The sunnah mu'akkada is to do 3. Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal says that 1 tasbih is wajib for him. And if the person does not do that 1 tasbih, he would do a sajdatul sahw in the Hanbali madhab. Abu Hanifa says that there's no minimum in terms of completing the rukun itself. The tasbih is a sunnah mu'akkada. Now a latecomer comes and he finds the imam in ruku', then we mention what he has to do as a compulsory action. He has to do takbiratul ihram and intend that his takbirah is a takbiratul ihram. He then goes with the imam. He doesn't say anything because he finds the imam in ruku'. He doesn't say the thana, he doesn't do anything. He goes, joins the imam. Okay? If he joins the imam and he is in ruku' and he joins with the imam in ruku', then he has caught the rak'ah. If I am going in ruku' and he is going up standing, you have not caught the rak'ah. How do you know that he is going to stand up? When he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida. Now, some imams don't know how to lead the prayer. So what they do is when they fully stand up, then they say, Sami Allahu liman hamida. And he's a bad imam. He should be advised not to do this. I prayed in another masjid. I was running late for the prayer here, and I prayed in another masjid. This imam, I don't know what he was doing. Anyway, every single takbir and tasbih and everything was after the action. So I don't know why he was doing that. Anyway, I was in rush, I couldn't talk to him. So once the imam is saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, that means he is going towards standing. If you go into ruku' in that position, you have not caught the prayer. Last year I was late to a prayer, and me and another brother were late. We both didn't catch the ruku'. The imam had said Sami Allahu liman hamida. He had already stood up. He said Allahu Akbar, and then he went into ruku', and then he got up. Did he catch the rak'ah? He didn't catch the rak'ah. So after the prayer, I made up a rak'ah. He started doing his tasbih. He did salam, he started doing his tasbih. After that, I said, you should make up 1 rak'ah. He said, no, I caught the prayer. I said, okay. Lakum dinukum waliya din. Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik say that the Imam will say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and the Muqtadi will say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Only. Do you understand what that means? So the Imam says Sami Allahu liman hamida, and then he stays silent. Hanafi and Maliki. Where's your notebook? You're memorizing everything? Bring your notebook. Imam Malik is the same. Okay? And so the Muqtadi will not say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and he will say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Or he can say Allahumma Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Or he can say Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. Or he can say Rabbana lakal hamd. Any of these 4 will complete the sunnah. Say it again. Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Allahumma Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. No wow. Rabbana lakal hamd. No wow. Okay? The best form is to say Allahumma Rabbana wa lakal hamd. That's the best form. Okay? And if a person decides to add tasbihat to that, he can do so if the Imam allows it.
So what are the imams?
That was everyone allows these 4 forms, okay? Because they're all narrated from the Prophet ﷺ. But the Imam only doing the Sami Allahu liman hamida, that is Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik. Okay? They will say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and they will stand there for a moment to allow the muqtadi to say Rabbana wa lakal hamd, and then he will go into sujood after that. Okay?
So,
Imam.
So the Imam, for Hanafi and Maliki, the Imams should just say Sami Allahu liman hamida and don't say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And the other two, they say both.
The Imam, so Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, the Imam, the Munfarid, the Muqtadi, all of them will say both things. Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd. These things are a sunnah. Okay?
For the Hanafi, the Ma'mun says.
You're not letting me talk, brother. the Ma'mum says Rabbana wa lakal hamd only. Okay? Imam Abu Hanifa. So I said to you before that for Imam Abu Hanifa, the Fatiha is not a Fatiha. The recitation is a rukun. The ruku' is a rukun. The two sajda are a rukun. And sitting enough time for the tashahhud is a rukun. The standing up from ruku', I said, was not a rukun. The mu'tamad of the madhab from the mutaakhirin, not from the earlier scholars, from the later scholars, is that it is wajib to rise from the ruku', wajib to stand in the ruku', wajib to rise from the ruku', wajib to stand after the ruku' as two separate actions. So one rising and then standing, and then itminan in that position. Okay? Itminan in the ruku', itminan in the sujood. Now what does the itminan mean? That you are momentarily still in the position. Not that you came up and you went down like in one motion, like a chicken, eating from the ground, going up and down like this. The prayer should not be like that. So you see some videos of some famous masajid around the world where the Imam is praying like a kangaroo, right? 20 rakat of Taraweeh in 7 minutes. It's not a valid prayer, right? Even though they're Hanafi Imams. Because the requirement is that a person is momentarily still in the position. So he needs to be momentarily still in the ruku'. He needs to be momentarily still while standing. And this is something we need to teach the children, because children fidget a lot. They move around. Okay? If you watch my children, they're never still for a whole second. The whole day long, they're moving around doing something. So I get very irritated when I stand next to children, because they are continuously moving around. And what they need to be taught is stand still in the prayer. Now, a person should not have waswas and say, oh, my nose moved, so did I do the rukn or not? Don't have waswas in the prayer. If a person looked at you and they would say, look, this person's not moving, that has completed the action. Everyone else says that it is a rukn to stay standing after the ruku'. Okay? Imam Malik has rising from the ruku' as a rukn and the standing itself as a separate rukn. Imam Shafi'i has the standing as a rukn. Now this difference is important, because Imam Shafi'i says that if the muqtadi gets behind the imam by 2 rukn, his prayer is invalidated. If he lags behind the imam by 2 rukn, that prayer is invalidated. Okay? So it's important to know that if you're reciting your Fatiha and the imam has done ruku' and then he stands up, that's the second. You're still reading your Fatiha, right? Then he goes into sujood, your prayer was invalidated behind the imam. Right? So as much as is possible, the person needs to follow the imam. When the person rises up from ruku', Imam Shafi and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal say he raises his hands again, just like he did when going into ruku'. The Hanafis say the ruku' should not be prolonged, and so do the Malikis, for a person coming late to the prayer. So every day we have this, and in every rak'ah we have this in our masjid, that people start running when they see the imam going into ruku', right? And this is something that is not allowed, should never be done. So can the imam, now he has heard that 15 people are running to the prayer, what should he do? The Hanafis and the Malikis say that he has finished his tasbih, he needs to say, Sami Allahu liman hamida. He gets up. He does not wait for them. The Shafi'is say it is recommended for the Imam to wait. And this difference of opinion is quite strict. Why is this quite strict? Al-Qurtubi mentioned that it is a form of shirk for the Imam to be waiting for the masbuk to come. He was very strict about it. Why is he so strict about it? He says that your prayer is intended for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then if you intended to delay the tasbihat so that people will join the prayer, then you added another niyyah in your niyyah, and it is a form of shirk, so it should not be done. I won't say any more about the matter. I feel like I'm missing something I was going to say, but anyway, we'll stop here inshallah and we'll take questions now. So you had a question?